Welcome into the Fantasy Guides podcast. My name is Andrew Teuscher, and I am joined today, of course, by a lovely cast of characters, including the owner, the operator of the Fantasy Guides account and fantasyguides.com, Stephen Rippey. Stephen, how are you?
I'm good, man. I've missed you guys. I was out last week just grinding away, but I'm excited to be back. Did you miss
Always
me?
glad. Oh, always. And always glad to have you. And luckily, Jesse made it extra early tonight because his kid's just too good at sports playing that baseball. Jesse, how are you?
Doing good. We 10-run rule the other team, So we won 12-1. So got home a little earlier. Start the pod. We're ready.
Awesome.
I have a long history of having games end early, and my parents being very grateful. I cannot say I was on the victorious end of many mercy rules, though. So
It's not fun. I remember even playing intramural like in my 20s, like basketball, and they had one of those rules, and it may have happened at least a time or two. And I could tell you, it's even worse when you become an adult.
I've got my I've won one championship in my sports career and is intramural college basketball. And we were put in the conference without even like the fraternities in it. Like we
Yeah.
were like the losers side. But my goodness, you'll still see me wearing my championship shirt on this pod every once in a while.
Hang it up there between Richardson and Burrow in the little
I
backdrop
will.
there.
I will. Truman State University. That's where Cody Schrader went. The NFL player. I could have played against him. I didn't, but I could have. But yeah, big winners. And we're always
All right.
celebrating things like playing on underdog and winning your underdog drafts. Because honestly, that's the only fantasy winning you can do right now is feeling like you're winning a draft. And I even sent a screenshot in the group chat of how great my draft was going. Managed to get me a little Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and CJ Stroud stack.
The
Super
triple
stack
stack.
already.
Yeah. What is that? A hat trick?
Yeah, something like that. We'll have to get an official term for it later. We'll be in the works on that. But get yourselves on Underdog, betting with us. We'll be posting content all the time for best ball on Underdog. Use promo code GUIDES GUIDES to get yourself $100 matched on your deposit and get yourself playing because that's all we got for fantasy right now. That and news. And well, there was some bigger and smaller news this week. We'll start with the bigger piece of news: the Rashee Rice situation we have going on. Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver keeps growing, unfortunately. Is we had the previous situation where he was caught going very, very fast, put a lot of people's lives in danger and some people in the hospital. And we were expecting a multi-game suspension from that. But now we just broke recently that Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is under investigation for allegedly hitting a photographer at a Dallas club early Monday. Now, this is something we've seen be like just go untouched and someone gets paid off and it never comes up again. This also got Alvin Kamara suspended for a good chunk of the season not that long ago. A very similar situation. Stephen, what is your reaction to hearing this news for Rashee Rice?
Well, I know that I knew that the news had happened because I saw a trade come through in my sleeper app and it said Rashee Rice for a 4th-round pick. So I knew something bad must have happened. Yeah, not good. Still allegedly, allegedly hit a photographer. I am curious sometimes because it could be hit a photographer. It could have been, he just swatted the guy away, like, get out of here. Like, there's the full range of what that could actually mean. So
what happened to the one with Devontae Adams where we clearly saw him just go up and wallop a guy on the NFL field? Do you remember that?
I thought he just pushed the camera away from the dude.
It was something
broke
like he
his
knocked
camera.
him down.
I'm not quite sure. The NFL takes their time with this stuff. They investigate it. We won't find out probably until right before the season starts. Remember with Kamara, it took forever. So it's going to be a while probably before we find out what's going on. But definitely he's going to have, a multi-game suspension. I'm just hopeful. Well, hopeful for one that he didn't really punch a photographer. I'm hoping this is more. This isn't as bad as it's sounding. And this kid, he needs a good talking to from Coach Reed, from Mahomes. Kelsey, they need to reel this guy in because I think he is a good player and I think he could be squandering a great opportunity with a great franchise.
Jesse, this gets you more excited for your guy Xavier Worthy there on the Chiefs?
I think he's going to be a stud regardless of Rashee Rice's legal issues. I just think that he's a lot closer to Tyreek Hill than he is to any of those other slot guys they've been running through there than the Sky Moore,
Nico Hardman.
Now,
Yeah.
let me ask you guys,
So
if he does get suspended, you know, a lot of the worry from the fantasy community that I hear about with Xavier Worthy is he's just going to be a go route guy. He's John Ross. People keep comparing him to John Ross, which I think we all thought was a good prospect coming out. But if Rashee Rice is out, Rashee Rice was getting a lot of those easy targets last year. That stuff close to the line of scrimmage, just short slants, drag routes, things like that. Are we more excited if we see Worthy getting some of that easy stuff? Because we know once he gets the ball in his hands, we got to assume he can pick up a chunk of yards quickly.
Jesse, I'll
I
let you
mean,
speak to that first.
he's just way more of a complete wide receiver prospect than Rashee Rice was too. So there's no reason that he can't be used all over the place. I know, Andrew has used the word limited. I don't believe that applies to this particular player. I think that the Texas offense was they did have this funny hot route where they just threw him the ball at 0 yards a lot. But part of that is trying to get the ball in the hands of your playmaker. So I don't think there's anything that Tyreek Hill did that this guy can't do. It's going to take him a while to get up to speed. He's not going to be Tyreek Hill next year. But I think that, you have that kind of weapon and Andy Reid in the same room together. I think that's dangerous. So I don't know. I think it's kind of regardless of what happens with Rashee Rice, they're going to try and figure out ways to scheme him the ball. So I'm very high on Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs. He looks pretty dope with that number 1 running around. Looks real good. I'm ready for it.
Well, Andrew, I traded up to get Worthy with some Rashee Rice. I was a little concerned about Rashee Rice, so I traded up. What I give you, like a future first and a second to get him?
Something like that. I was very willing to trade back because I had so many. I was right at that tier break of I didn't like the guys there, and I didn't want the pick, and I didn't want to have to make the decision. I was going to take Bo Nix. I was going to let Xavier Worthy slide anyway. But yeah, I think Xavier Worthy. I think he's limited, but I think what he is good at is exactly what Rashee Rice was doing with the screens. I think he's phenomenal in the screen game. It's not hard to imagine why. He ran a 4.2.
Yeah.
So I think it'll open opportunity. It won't be the over the middle stuff like Rashee Rice was going to do, but it'll obviously make it so they have to give him more touches. Just despite what I think of him. Moving on to some other news. We basically just had a myriad of post-draft mid receivers being signed because they decided not to draft a guy in the 4th round. Instead, they signed one of these guys. So I'm just going to blitz them. You guys tell me which one stands out the most to you. Firstly, we had Tyler Boyd signing a 1-year, $4.5 million deal with the Titans to add to that wide receiver room with DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley and Tony Pollard. And then we had Odell Beckham Jr. signing a 1-year deal up to $5 million with incentives with the Miami Dolphins, getting into another big wide receiver room with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Then we had Chase Just Won't Die Mapletron Claypool is now on the Bills, which seems very fitting for them, and it'll somehow work out, I'm sure. And then we have DJ Chark signing a 1-year deal worth up to $5 million with the Los Angeles Chargers. Some more speed there in LA. Jesse, I'll let you start. Any of those names pop up to you first as actually standing out as fantasy relevant?
Nope.
Moving on.
No, I just nothing too exciting about that. The Chase Claypool thing is kind of fascinating because I don't really understand why he, ended up in Canada. Like I feel like he was a stud in college. He was a good prospect. I don't know what it was.
Had a great rookie year.
Yeah, like it just a very strange kind of fall from grace from him. So that situation is really good, right? Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton of there's opportunity to try and get on the field there. He just needs to be better than Keon Coleman or somebody. That's not like there's a huge deep room there.
Coleman, Shakir, Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that there's opportunity there for him to stick. But yeah, I don't know. None of these are moving the needle for me. Just how many receivers do the Titans need?
All of them.
Jesse, how did you end up with every Titans wide receiver? And that can't be.
Yeah, no, I was not trying to lock that down. With my, you guys know how much I love Levis. It's just like, yeah, I want every Tennessee wide receiver. No, every single one of them when I owned them was with another team.
Yeah.
They all got traded to the Titans, and now I'm trying to get rid of them. And
Oh no, keep him. I got Tyler Boyd burning a hole in my pocket. I'll send him your way.
Yeah, just what I need. Another one. Yeah, and then then even Zay Jones was like visiting there, and I was like, oh god, they're gonna sign Zay Jones, and
we'll do a separate podcast, just a quick that day podcast if it happens, just for your reaction.
Emergency reaction pod.
Yeah.
It was me last year who had all the Titans wide receivers. I had Burks and I had Kyle Phillips and oh gosh, one of the other receivers there that were just incredibly mid, but could have caught a touchdown because my team was so bad. So Jesse, now you're the Titans guy. It worked really well for me last year.
We have Kyle Phillips loser in this deal for sure.
I still believe it.
In. I love me some Kyle Phillips, but yeah, it's not looking good for his future.
Andrew, do I have permission to tangent really quickly?
Of course, Steven.
I know we don't do that on the show, but I want to.
You were going to do it whether you asked or not.
I was just trying to make the viewers think I was being polite. Jesse, did you see that Houston, the college team, is saying F the NFL and they're wearing those throwback uniforms?
Yeah, their cease and desist makes no sense at all.
I agree.
First of all, like,
yeah,
they get to decide. Yes. They just get to be like, we're the only people that can combine red and powder blue together. It's like,
so for people that don't know, the old Houston Oilers uniforms that the Titans wore for like 2 games last year as throwbacks. The Houston, is it the Cougars, Jesse? Houston.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They basically have a very similar looking jersey, except instead of saying it just says Cougars on the front and on the helmet, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is like one of their, and it looks awesome.
It might say Houston, like in a script.
I'm looking at it right now. That's so cool. I didn't know they had those.
It looks awesome, and the NFL's not even really using theirs, and it doesn't like have the oil rig on it or anything. It's like, come on, somebody needs to be wearing those jerseys.
Yeah, you don't get to just say those colors belong to the NFL. Too close to the Oilers. I don't know. That whole thing was lame. That was very no fun league to me. NFL. It's like, come on.
All right, Andrew, I have to bring up anytime like jersey talk happens. You didn't add it to the show sheet, and I don't think that was very responsible considering how much passion at least 3 of us on this show have for jerseys.
Those are phenomenal jerseys. That's on me. Like, not every jersey deserves to be talked about. Like those gross Broncos jerseys you guys have now.
I know.
But like those deserve.
Come on, those are not gross.
The throwbacks are nice.
There's grosser out there for sure.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry, Jacob Cleveland.
Speaking of the Titans, yeah, there are grosser.
They should have kept the Houston Oilers jerseys
for sure.
Yeah, none of those really stand out to me. With the signings, I'm gonna say one thing: resist the Odell Beckham Jr. trap. He was not playing for a very, very desperate Ravens offense last year. Resist it. Don't bite into it. I don't think he's had over 500 yards in like 3 years. It's bad. Don't do it.
He does feel like a Miami Dolphin. Doesn't that seem like a team he should be playing for though?
Absolutely. But OBJ is a bad drug. Don't get yourself invested in that. Don't do it, friends. Last bit of news. This is more for Dynasty, but something small to pay attention to is maybe some motivation for one Najee Harris, who just got his 5th year option declined by the Pittsburgh Steelers. It makes sense. I'll have to go look at what the number would have been for his 5th year option, but you just don't want to pay a 1st round pick 5th year option on a running back is kind of my thought process here. Steven, does this make you view Najee Harris dynasty redraft really any differently?
Maybe it makes me like him a little bit more for this year if he's got some motivation to get paid. Because if he doesn't have a good year, he's getting like a league minimum, right? Like he could be one of these free agents next year that like he doesn't sign with the first wave of free agency. He sits for weeks or months. So maybe it makes me like him a little bit more for this year. But when Najee Harris came out, he came out with Jamar Chase. I wasn't super psyched about him because I know Jesse, you really liked him. And he was, did a lot at Alabama, but my biggest concern was his age, that he was just an older back. And I think he was 23 when he entered the league, which isn't it's not like an end all with anything, but he had that great rookie year and then he has just dropped off big time. And so his dynasty value is like a shadow of what it was. So yeah, he's somebody that he's not going to, you might be able to get him for a 2nd next year if he signs with a good team, but it's all downhill from here, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, looking at it, that 5th year option would have made him borderline a top 10 paid back in the league, which I think he is in that range, but like don't pay him that if you don't have to. And if he plays well, you pay him around that anyway and just give him a couple more years. So it just made sense, I think, business wise. I don't think it says anything about Najee's role next year. They're going to need him in an Arthur Smith offense. But speaking of guys who need roles, there's some dudes who got some roles solidified because of the NFL draft. And we're finally moving on past prospects. As much fun as we had with them, we're now in the full NFL season. We have it in our lenses, in our view. We're drafting an underdog, and we want to talk about some impacts post-draft on some veteran players, because a lot of the times those veteran players are the ones that are impacted. Today, we're going to focus on just winners because we're a positive podcast here. We don't say loser because it's family friendly. We're not going to talk about any fallers. All righty. So we're going to talk about some winners today. Going into it, one of the biggest winners of the draft, because he got signed just the day before. Steven, your first winners you sent me to talk about is one Ezekiel Elliott. Fat Zeke is back in Dallas. Signed right before the draft. They didn't draft a single soul. Oh, no. Didn't he sign like right after the draft because Jerry Jones talked about taking a running back?
Yeah, no, it was right after the draft. He basically is a winner from the draft because the Cowboys were like, shit, we need a running back, or at least we need one more running back. So yeah, last year he was the RB39, but if you really think about it, he didn't play a ton up until Ramondre Stevenson got hurt, and he helped people win some leagues. Not you, Jesse, I'm sorry, but a lot of people that had him did win some leagues because he put up some big games towards the end of the season with one of the worst offenses in the NFL last year in the New England Patriots. I still don't know what kind of a workload we can expect from him. I'm going to guess it's going to be pretty split between him and Rico. But this offense projected to probably be a top 5 offense. He's going to get goal line work. You know it. Jerry Jones loves him. I think he's one of Jerry Jones' favorite players that he's had there. So, Andrew, I traded for Zeke, and then I promptly traded him away to you, just because I don't think my team's quite there yet. I was like, man, I have no running backs. I don't know if Zeke's enough to push me over the top, so I moved him. But I think he's a great buy piece for a win now team.
Yeah, clearly my team is ready to win. Anyone that's in our league listening to this.
I was trying to get Joe Mixon from you, but you were like, I'm not moving him. I need a running back. So when you said that, I was like, all right, well, let's see if you need another one.
Oh yeah, I am holding on to running backs for dear life. And Jesse gave me one. You gave me a run. Thank you guys. Jacob, next time he's on here, he's got to trade me a running back too.
Worst case scenario, if you're not looking like you're making the playoffs, I think you'll be able to move him.
Heck yeah. I mean, and just go look at 2022. The last time Zeke was in a running back share in Dallas playing in a very, look, you guys like the jersey swap I did right there for Zeke? Yeah, it got rid of those old Patriots uniforms, swapped on the Cowboys uniform.
Well done. Well done.
Savvy.
Thank you. He was the RB22. I don't know why he won't do that again. He's not that much older. He's not that much fatter. I think Zeke is primed to have himself a nice RB2 season.
This guy, I don't have it in front of me, but he has a ton of touches over college in the NFL, the most by any running back easily in the NFL right now. But like you said, he didn't look terrible last year. And I even heard a stat where he posted like a top 5, they have the chip that tells like how fast, miles per hour. Mm-hmm. He had one where I think it was, I can't remember which podcast I was listening to, but they were talking about, it was a screen pass to him that he took for 75 yards for a touchdown. It was called back by holding, but he posted on that play one of the fastest times in the NFL last season. So he's still got some juice. So I'll be rooting for him. I hope he, I think he could be an RB2. I wouldn't be shocked by the end of the year he's a top 24 running back.
I kind of fall on the other side of that coin. I ended up getting him in a trade and then was very happy to just deal him away to Steven right away.
Yeah.
I think he's washed. I think that this is actually a move where this is a win for him. I think that backfield is, but I think that between him and Dowdle, I think that the Cowboys may have made a mistake. I think that they had opportunities to go pick up a rookie several times in that draft and they didn't address it. And I think both those guys are very mid running backs. And so, yeah, we'll have to see, but I think that could kind of come back to bite him. Why is this a win for Ceedee Lamb this draft, Steven?
Yeah, I was confused on that one too.
You don't know why?
Just because no one else went there? Is that kind of the thought?
Yeah,
I didn't think it could go up for him. He was the wide receiver 1, was he not?
Yeah, but if they draft one of these top wide receivers, which they were in a position to get a very good wide
Oh, like
receiver,
Brian Thomas. Yeah,
they could
Brian
have got a
Thomas
Brian
was linked to
Thomas, they
them a
could have
lot.
got a Lad McConkey, they could have got a number of good wide receivers in that spot. They didn't take any. Instead, they took an offensive lineman, which I think probably helps Ceedee Lamb, Dak Prescott as well. He had 181 targets last year. The next closest person had 100 fewer targets, Brandon Cooks. So basically what I'm saying is we're looking at Ceedee Lamb getting maybe another 181 targets. So I think that if there was any question about who you take as the number one wide receiver, don't you guys think that cements the fact that he's going to get, there's no way anyone else without an injury, I think, out targets him next year. And the fact that they didn't really add a running back either makes me think they're going to have to throw more because nobody's going to be their run game might not be that good. They also lost Tyron Smith, so I don't know if they're going to be able to be as physical in the run game. I think they're going to have to pass more. And so, I think Ceedee Lamb's in for another monster season.
Yep. And that makes absolute sense with Ceedee Lamb. And like you said, solidifies him at the top of the draft. Serious guys like Tyreek Hill's getting old, Jamar Chase with the health of a quarterback, Justin Jefferson with a rookie. This really, I think, puts him there at the top. Well,
like you look at their depth chart. It's Ceedee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, Ryan Flournoy, Jalen Brooks, Martavis Bryant. I don't know if he is considered still on the roster, if he's just practice squad. I mean, this is the fall off is so bad. And Brandon Cooks, I mean, the guy's 31 years old and he's a shell of what he used to be. So yeah, big season coming.
I'm holding out faith in Luke Schoonmaker tight end to take all those targets away. I need it for my dynasty team. But yes, those are the guys that we're looking behind them. And Jesse saw you put some real nice names like Ceedee Lamb, Zeke Elliott, Dallas Cowboys, and thought, man, I'm gonna go to a nice team everyone loves and knows. Let's talk Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers as a winner. And Jesse, I think you are completely justified in saying Bryce Young's a winner, but why would you say he's a winner this draft?
I was going to say, man, unpopular opinion. No, I think, my thing is, I think that Bryce Young had about as bad of a season as he could have. And I see him improving a lot. I think he's a great player. And I think one of the things that was lacking in that offense was weapons. And they went out and they got Xavier Legette, Jonathan Brooks, and Jatavian Sanders. Those are three of my favorite players at those three positions. I think Jatavian Sanders was probably the sneakiest pick, came a little bit later in the draft. He's a really good tight end, really good receiving tight end. And yeah, I feel like Bryce Young, there's nowhere to go but up. I don't know, how cheap you can get him right now, but I feel like they're going to get better and better. Deontay Johnson in the offseason as well. If Jonathan Mingo did anything, that would be great. They kind of lock down the interior of the line. I don't know about their tackles, but if Jonathan Brooks is healthy and kind of turns into the player that we think he might be, I feel like that benefits Bryce Young a lot.
Yeah, we need something for Bryce Young. He's got that rushing upside. He was the first pick overall. I go to our lads and I drop back to the first day of the year in January. Their receiving options were DJ Chark, Jonathan Mingo, Adam Thielen, Terrace Marshall, Mike Stracan, and Emir Smith-Marset. So yeah, they could just only go up up from there.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, that is a bad group. So I think that it improves. I think that people have already forgotten. They've already moved on from him, and they've already, anointed CJ Stroud. Those guys were very similar. Like everybody they were splitting hairs trying to decide which one of those guys was going to be the guy. The talent is there. So I tried to acquire him. I think it was Nick that had him, and Nick was having nothing to do with it. But I think that you could buy him really cheap in Dynasty right now.
Yeah, and now I do think they have like a good, like a mix of receivers and tight ends that do different things. They still got Adam Thielen there, who was decent last year. Obviously, his best days are far behind him. But Thielen, Deontay, Xavier, who's just a freak athlete and can stretch the field. They still got Jonathan Mingo there and Terrace Marshall, who are also field stretchers. So I kind of want to see them open this offense up. We saw, Trevor Lawrence had just as bad of a rookie season as Bryce Young did last year. And his second season in the league was phenomenal. Well, I wouldn't say phenomenal, but it was really, really good. I I don't know if I expect quite the jump from year 1 to year 2 from Bryce, but I mean, I'm optimistic because I do like the weapons that he's now got.
Do you guys know who Tommy Tremble is? Because I don't. And
he's a tight end I dropped just
old
recently.
Notre Dame tight end.
Yeah, he's listed as the starter there. I never even heard of the guy. So I feel like Jatavian Sanders come in there, seize that position. He could be one of those surprising kind of late round picks that does something.
Yeah, Tommy Tremble was one of those, I think kind of a tweener tight end, correct? Am I correct, Andrew?
Yeah, real small guy.
Yeah, like 6'3", 240. Just he was one of those guys that I thought could be like who's the guy from? I was kind of comparing him to the guy
Jonnu Smith.
No, I was thinking of the guy from Carolina. Sorry, not Carolina. Baltimore, the backup tight end.
Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, I kind of saw him in like an Isaiah Likely type of role. Like not a great tight end, but he could be decent. But as soon as they saw that they drafted Sanders, I promptly dropped him.
I love saying that guys are tiny and like, yeah, they're really small tight end, 6'3", 240.
Yeah, exactly. You see that guy on the street, you'd be like, whoa.
Although, man, did you guys watch the Tom Brady roast on Netflix?
A little. I saw clips.
You got to watch it, Jesse. But Gronk's up there. That guy. I mean, Kevin Hart literally comes up to like his hip. Like he is a massive guy. So yeah, I guess Gronk was different.
Kevin Hart came up to that podium and he was hugging it like he was like a little kid trying to get on the counter to see the cookies.
No, it kind of looked like, like a bar. Like if you're ordering a drink at a bar, like if you're a short person, like, yeah, he had his elbows up by his ears.
Yeah, no, that was a tough look there for Kevin Hart. And Gronk was out there like saying stuff like after a bunch of his jokes, he goes, that was clever, right? I wrote these. Everyone thinks I'm stupid, but I'm clever. And everyone knows that the smartest person is the one who has to say how smart they are constantly.
That was Jesse. You got to watch it. We got to talk about it.
Oh, I've gotten so many clips of it. I feel like I could piece it all together, but
no, Jesse, it's 3 hours.
I know. That's the only thing though, is like, I think roasts are like kind of hard to watch sometimes.
They are. Yes. It gets uncomfortable for sure.
Yeah, and it's 3 hours of that. I don't know if I'm that excited.
All right.
My buddies wanted to do a punishment in our league where if you lose, you might have to do stand-up comedy at a local comedy club.
I would never sign up for that.
I don't want to watch that. I would think it's so funny to do. I'm not afraid of a crowd or a stage. I don't want to watch my friend uncomfortably stand up there and crumble. Cringe.
Well, Casey does stand up from time to time, and I while I enjoy going, it's painful for me because all I'm doing is scanning the audience. Like, are they laughing? Are they laughing? Like, because you want them to do well,
Yeah, it's protective older brother there.
It's hard putting yourself out there.
If you're a bunch of gross people like me and my friends, it's a great punishment though. Add it to the wheel.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, moving on to our third winner. This was an obvious one, and I took it right away because I wanted to talk about it because he's on my dynasty team, so it got me excited. Joe Mixon was traded for like carrot sticks at lunch, like the snack nobody wants, is what he got shipped to the Houston Texans for from the Cincinnati Bengals after we thought Joe Mixon was dead, and he's very alive. And he finds himself as the starting running back on the Texans with just Dameon Pierce really backing him up, and Dare Ogunbowale, I think, is still there. And the draft goes through and they don't land anyone. So now Joe Mixon finds himself sitting there on the Houston Texans, who isn't a team that runs it a ton. They ran it at just under a 40% clip, I think, in their run rate, which isn't phenomenal. But the thing is, the Houston Texans, they only want to put one running back in, and they only want to play him. Grabbing some numbers, Devin Singletary last year became the starter at the end of the year. All right, and so Devin Singletary from week 9 on being their starter played 68.9% of snaps. That's a workhorse in today's NFL, and that's Devin freaking Singletary, who we'll actually get to later. It's fine back. He saw himself getting 16.7 attempts per game and 2.8 targets per game. From that stretch, it's like 18, 19 touches per game. In a Houston Texans offense, that's going to be phenomenal. Maybe we wish he had more targets, but that's actually about the same amount of targets and rushing attempts that he was seeing in Cincinnati. So just take Joe Mixon, put him in a equally good offense, and look, you have Joe Mixon again. So obviously he's going to be worn down a little bit more, and I think Joe Mixon might get more receptions because last year CJ Stroud, I heard a stat, had one of the biggest cover 1, cover 3. He saw cover 1 and cover 3 the most out of like anyone in the league. Well, You check into cover 2, you're going to hit the back and the flat a little bit more. And it's going to be more opportunities. They're not going to be able to throw deep. So I think Joe Mixon's going to be in for the season he saw previously, and he's going to maybe even do better in a good offense.
Yeah, I mean, he was the RB7 last year. Now, I do think he was just a volume-driven RB7, but to your point, that's probably what he's going to be again this year.
Let's do it again.
He was 70% of the snaps last year. That coaching staff does not like Damian Pierce. We know that. He's kick returning. When a running back becomes a kick returner, that means we don't really like what you're doing when the offense is on the field.
He scored a touchdown, though.
What about, guys, to tangent, you talk about a running back becoming a kick returner. What about Justin Fields, kick returner?
For
the Steelers. Did you hear that?
I just saw something cool on this. So
right after I traded for him, I was like, that's... I don't like that.
Andrew, I'm interested to see what your something cool on this, because I'm thinking, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, don't get me wrong. Dynasty, real fantasy football, this is terrible. But cool NFL things. I just saw a guy, I need to get his name. He does really awesome, usually college football content. But he's saying that with the new NFL rule, with guys lining up super closely, dudes are going to have to like overcommit because they're only like 10, 15 yards separated from the guy catching the ball. They're going to have to overcommit on angles to get the dude who's catching the ball. It's not like you're coming from really far away. So what's going to happen is you're going to have your returners on far deep either side of the field. And Justin Fields is one of the guys back there. So let's say he catches it. Well, everyone's swarming him. So Justin Fields can just turn to the dude standing juxtaposed to him as a quarterback, beam him the ball, and now as everyone's on the left side of the field, that guy darts up the right side, which will be cool.
Are you talking about like the Music City Miracle, essentially?
Yeah, but on every play, it's like an option.
Oh my God.
Yeah, still not getting excited for Fields though.
I did not like hearing that one bit. I am still in the let's cut Russell Wilson. He's washed. Justin Field takes over. Like, that's kind of more where I'm going. I see him as the one there. So get him cheap while you can. But if he turns into a kick returner, that was a mistake.
but back to were we still talking Joe Mixon?
Oh yeah, that Joe Mixon guy.
I just think he's gonna look a lot like the Bengals. Like it seems like let's turn it on back, do it again.
Yeah. Now I don't know, Andrew. You said what Devin Singletary was able to do. I don't know that there's a big difference between the two at this point in their career. So I think he'll probably, I wouldn't say RB7. I think that's probably higher than I want to rank him. I think, he finished ahead of Bijan Robinson. I don't see that happening this year. I don't see him finishing ahead of Jonathan Taylor, some of these guys, but 14 points per game, 13 to 15, somewhere between there. I'd sign up for that.
That's right, what Singletary was doing. And I'm not even saying I love Joe Mixon's draft cost. I think he's deservedly in the dead zone. And I'm not saying I'm scooping him up everywhere, but he's certainly a winner. And RB15 is not a terrible cost.
I did draft him. I've been doing the Best Ball Mania, Andrew, and I did take him recently. So wherever he was coming up. Now, I have been, a lot of times I try to grab wide receivers early, and he may have been, my panic button was like, I need a running back now. So, but yeah, so far, 55 ADP.
Dude, you get yourselves on best ball drafts right now. This year, I heard someone else say, get ready to draft old, ugly running backs. There is just not the breadth of, like, RB13 is Breece Hall on his rookie year. Bijan Robinson, Bijan wasn't top 13. He was further up than that. It's all old guys. So the dead zone is even worse than it's ever been. It's going to be awesome.
Hey, I had Zeke in a ton of drafts last year because I thought he'd get a little more work in New England. And so obviously didn't help me for a lot of the year, but it did help me in some of my teams, down the stretch.
I'm going to keep in my back pocket that me and Jacob were telling you that Zeke is not a threat to Ramondre, but they both suck. So we both lose. Speaking of
that one.
Oh yeah. Speaking of dead zone running backs, Steven had another couple of dead zone running backs as winners out of this draft. And I'm going to guess your argument's pretty similar for these guys, Steven. Zach Moss found himself being the new Joe Mixon in Cincinnati. Devin Singletary signed himself a 3-year deal with a decent chunk of change to go up to be the Giants running back. Steven, why do you have these guys as winners?
I mean, because they're like, if we just want to talk about it from a dynasty lens, these are guys you can get for pretty cheap that can be starting running backs for you. I tried to get Devin Singletary just the other day.
AJ's not budging.
AJ wasn't budging though. Because I mean, Singletary, as much as I want to rip on him because he's so boring to me. He's slow, he's small, but the guy produces. You can't say he doesn't produce when he's asked to. He's a decent running back. And behind him, Tyrone Tracy, the 25-year-old running back from Iowa and Purdue. I do like that guy. I think he has some tools, but he is a rookie. Gary Brightwell, Eric Gray. These are not guys that scare me. I think he's better than all of those guys. So yeah, he's going to get a lot of work there. And then the same thing in Cincinnati. I think Zach Moss last year actually was really good. If Jonathan Taylor doesn't come back from injury last year and we just see Zach Moss for a whole season, he would have been an RB1 to finish the year. I mean, he did nothing to show that he wasn't playing well. And I think he's going to get a good workload. And then Jesse, your boy Chase Brown too. I think he could actually get a little bit of work there in Cincinnati. I think that Zach Moss, he's not going to be asked to do as much as Joe Mixon was. I don't see maybe quite as much work. I think he's going to be more the 2-down workhorse back. And then we might see Chase Brown in on 3rd downs. But yeah, how could they not be winners? They're cheap running backs that I think either one of them, would I be shocked if they finished top 24? No.
I would. My only comment is just handcuff Moss with Chase Brown, because I do think they're going to use him a lot. I think they're going to use him more than they did previously. He's not just like a 3rd down back. He was kind of an every down back in college. So you can kind of see them that might be a little bit more of an equal share, or even, seeing Chase Brown carry it more. So I think that's an important handcuff if you go that route. But I agree. I agree that Zach Moss is going to be cheap and can get you some points.
Easy to get excited too about Chase Brown. That guy was tested as a very explosive athlete.
Yeah.
And definitely has more juice than Zach Moss. So, I mean, if I had my way, I just wanted to be the Chase Brown show. I would love to see them give him a full workload. He's honestly not that much smaller. He seems like it, but he's not that much smaller than Zach Moss. He's like 5'9", 209. What? I guess Moss is. I thought Moss weighed less, but I guess he's like 220. So all right, maybe he's smaller.
We're splitting hairs here, Steven. Yeah. He's not like he's a guy that could carry it on 1st and 2nd down. So I don't know what that's going to look like, the share there. So that's why I'm saying just pick up both those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, looking at the Bengals depth chart now, it is the land of lost toys. Chris Evans is the 4th running back, and he's a special teamer and does nothing. Actually, that's Captain America, so I take that back. Sorry, Chris Evans. And then we have Travion Williams, who's been cut 2 different times by the Cincinnati Bengals.
Travion Williams, there were some truthers out there back in the day of Travion Williams, like that would always have him like on their little taxi squad or at the bottom of their roster. We're going on like year 5 now or year 6 for that guy.
He's been cut twice and no one else has picked him up. So like he has something of Zach Taylor's that he stole from his house and won't give back as long as he's on the team. Dude, it is Zach Moss and Jace Brown, and then that's it.
And we'll take 50-50 timeshares. Like even if that's what it is.
And the Bengals offense?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. And Joe Burrow loves him a good check down. So we're in on that. And I can never Devin Singletary, every time your name is mentioned, I am now going to give you respect. I have to sacrifice something to you because I was so wrong at the Dameon Pierce thing. Devin Singletary, the best running back in the league, greatest thing since LT. And that is all I have to say on that.
Or Adrian Peterson, maybe.
Yeah, Trey Benson, Devin Singletary, Adrian Peterson. They're all right there.
Let's just call him DS, right? It's all the good guys. We're always LT.
Oh, yeah,
AP.
DS. There you go.
He deserves it. DS.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of Nintendo. That might missed an era. But yeah, going on to the next set of winners, or the next winner that Jesse has for us is Justin Herbert, quarterback of the LA Chargers. Jesse, why is Justin Herbert a winner for you after the draft?
I think everything that the Chargers have done. I think adding Harbaugh, that you've upgraded the coach, you've upgraded the offensive philosophy. Joe Alt at big time, getting essentially the best tackle in the draft.
That dude's huge.
Yeah. Lad McConkey, even Brendan Rice is sneaky, right? His dad was Jerry Rice.
You meant to say Jerry Rice's son. Yeah, that's right. His official name.
And then, I just put a note here. Keep an eye on tight ends because Harbaugh really likes tight ends. He likes using 2 tight end formations. Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst, it's kind of, there's some misfit tight ends for you.
Donald Parham as well.
Yeah, but they like tight ends in that offense. And I think all those guys get a little bit of work. So that's just something to keep an eye on is the Chargers tight ends. But I think Justin Herbert's going to be in a much better situation. with the weapons that they've added. And I think that it's a big coaching thing too. I think Harbaugh is a coach or a quarterback whisperer in a lot of ways. He doesn't specifically coach them, but it's just he does a good job of really making his quarterbacks feel comfortable. And yeah, I see Justin Herbert maybe taking a leap forward. We know the talent is there. It's just been rough in fantasy for a couple of years. So it's like, come on, let's take that step forward now. We got some weapons.
Yeah, a lot of people probably remember Delaney Walker, the Tennessee Titan, but I remember him and Vernon Davis in those early, the Super Bowl Jim Harbaugh year with the 49ers. I remember him using both of those tight ends, very athletic tight ends a lot. And he's got some athletic tight ends in Los Angeles. So I am curious to see how that is. Herbert's one of those guys, Jesse, that I was like super low on after the first day of the draft. I was like, oh, they didn't take I wanted them to get Malik Neighbors, but then they get Ladd McConkey. And now I'm pretty excited now that I think about them having Joe Alt to help protect. And, the volume probably won't be what we want as far as pass attempts. But, I mean, Brock Purdy had the second fewest pass attempts last year in the NFL. We obviously know he had a very good season. So I think that Herbert could do those kind of things in this offense. Very efficient. Now I wouldn't compare their weapons to what San Francisco has. So, it's hard to say what they're going to do with that, but no, I'm growing. He's growing a little bit more on me. I had Justin Herbert ranked pretty low in my rankings. I think I'm inching him back up a little bit. It's hard. There's a lot of good quarterbacks right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I was just looking around at like what the Chargers have going for them, and I noticed they're employing 2 fullbacks, which seems like whatever. Oh, half the league doesn't employ 1. They have 2, which I absolutely love. Like that's such a Harbaugh thing to do. But yeah, I think Justin Herbert definitely got some help out there. I'll go ahead and play a little name game with you guys with
Harbaugh going and getting some of that amber and extracting some DNA of a fullback and bringing it back to the NFL.
That one went right over my head. Amber.
It's a Jurassic Park reference. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. The one with the dinosaurs.
The mosquito? Yeah, the mosquito. Yeah. He's inside the amber. They got to drill in. Pull the
fullback
DNA
went extinct, but he's bringing it back.
Was the Velociraptor the one you rode to school, Steven? Was that the dinosaur? Back in the day?
No, that's over my head. Just an old joke. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're just old. Yeah, I went with it. Old movie, old man. Oh well. Let's play a little name game here.
No, I do got to tell you though, Andrew. At some point, hopefully, we can go camping with Casey and Steven, and you can have one of them. I don't remember, or it's just Casey. I don't remember if it's both of you, one of you.
No, we both can do a very good impression of a T-Rex.
Yeah, yes. A T-Rex impression. But you want the fire going, and it's like dark, and then they like disappear off into the trees, and you're just kind of sitting there drinking your beer. You will feel like there's a T-Rex coming through the woods because they just start crashing through trees, and they can do a really good impression.
Let me point out that was when I was in my 20s, Jesse. I don't know if I'm still doing it.
Well, I mean, come on.
Get a few drinks in me.
I just sold it. Yeah, I just
all right, we'll do it. Hey, you know what? At the expo.
If we all go to the expo. I'm going to see some crazy stuff at the expo. Everyone go to the expo. Watch Steven there. It was a prime Steven. It was incredible. I saw JJ, Zachariason, and other guys just in like these very professional dudes at this expo. Anyone can go look up Fantasy Football Expo. Great plug. And these dudes who you listen to are super analytical and like methodical, just doing the craziest stuff because they've had a couple in them. It's great.
There's a lot of drinks flowing at that thing.
Oh, 100%. It's awesome. They know what brings people in. 100%. Okay. Another winner we have. This one is mine / Jacobs because he couldn't join us tonight, so I had to get him in there. But I liked what Kyler Murray's got going for him anyway. Kyler Murray is definitely a winner after the draft because he got the best wide receiver prospect we've seen in quite some time. So obviously it's going to be a big bump. Looking at last year at this time, so this date last year, the Arizona Cardinals wide receiver depth chart looked like Marquise Brown, who I am just not a fan of. Zach Pascal, Greg Dortch, and Zach Ertz were his pass catching options.
Greg Dortch.
Marvin Harrison. Yeah, Dortch. Marvin Harrison's better than all of those dudes put together. And luckily now he also has the not the resurgence, but the Trey McBride becoming something special there. Michael Wilson's even better than a lot of those guys I just mentioned. So he's got a lot going for him. And I just think he needs to be brought back up. And how great he is in fantasy football. He was the QB9 last year in points per game and an awesome Drew Petzing offense that does a really good job of simplifying things and making Kyler look good. In his first year of learning it, back to 2020, he was the QB6 in points per game. Back in 2021, QB4 in MVP discussions. Go back to 2022, he's the QB7. He just is a top 10 quarterback no matter what, with the floor to get up there in towards the top 3. So I'm going to have him super high this year. Adding Marvin Harrison is going to be a big deal. Add some weapons. So big fan of Kyler Murray going into this year.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree. The guy's been just good every year. And what would you guys say? Like Marvin Harrison, where does he rank as far as the best receivers in the NFL right now? We haven't seen him play it down. But I mean, I would assume you're going to take Jefferson over him. Chase
we talking
over him.
Fantasy or real life?
No, just real life receiver. I'm assuming you take those two guys, Ceedee Lamb. But are there maybe AJ Brown? Yeah, AJ Brown. But like, he's got to be close, right?
Devontae Adams.
Yeah, if it's real life, that he's going to be a little further down. I mean, the guy still needs to develop a little bit, but
I mean, but these guys, did Jamar Chase needed no time. Justin Jefferson needed no time. I just think we're talking about, Ceedee Lamb took a little bit to go. So I would say maybe, Jesse, don't you think his floor could be like Ceedee Lamb, where it took a few years, maybe a couple of years, but he could hit the ground running like these two guys, especially with Kyler Murray throwing him the football.
Well, and I think, you remember how hyped we were about Garrett Wilson that first year.
I'd be super hyped if he had Kyler Murray.
Yeah, no, but he's a better prospect. So,
yeah.
And has
I see. I get your point. Okay.
Yeah, it's just you can look more like, instead of going like elite, you can look at just guys that came out of his same situation and thinking about how high we were, and then lost some luster after the Achilles injury to Rodgers. But just remember how excited we were about Garrett Wilson after that first year. I think the sky's the limit for this kid. He just has he's got the right attitude too. I think. That's the part that I'm the most excited about. He's kind of first guy there, last guy to leave. The Cardinals have been wanting this for a long time, so they need a weapon there.
I'm really excited to get excited. Like on Sundays, get hyped up for calling him the toddler Kyler Murray back on my screen. Like even in this picture, you can't tell based on anything else around him how tall he is, but he still looks short. I love you, Kyler Murray. You are phenomenal, little king there. Going on to more winners from this draft, Steven, your final winner that you mentioned, and you're gonna have to sell me on this one as a winner. I maybe not a total winner, but Justin Jefferson being a winner from the draft, coming away with a rookie quarterback, I guess.
Yeah, all I need to write down is Sam Darnold. That's all I need to say. Like that,
not Sam Darnold at QB. Got it.
Yeah, and if they didn't take a quarterback in this draft class, I'm nervous for Jefferson. I'm scared if they didn't take one, because this was such a good quarterback class, and you don't want to be stuck with one of these wide receivers. We always talk about this, like the Barry Sanders was stuck on just bad teams for the longest time. Larry Fitzgerald didn't have a quarterback for most of his career until he got Kurt Warner. And Larry Fitzgerald was still really, really good, but like, think of how good Fitzgerald could have been if he had a really good quarterback, which he did not have for most of his career. I was worried we could see that with Justin Jefferson in this situation, but getting JJ McCarthy, I don't even need JJ McCarthy to be outstanding. Like, he doesn't need to be an elite quarterback, but could he be Jared Goff good? I think so. If he's Jared Goff good, then I think Justin Jefferson's fine. I don't think a quarterback needs to be elite for someone like Justin Jefferson. I just think he can't have a horrible quarterback. And that's what he was coming into the season with. He was coming in with probably the worst quarterback situation in the entire league. Now, maybe it's middle of the pack, and I'm great with that with Justin Jefferson.
I know you love JJ McCarthy, Jesse. So you think Justin Jefferson, he's the wide receiver 4 right now. So he's no longer, every other year he was like wide receiver 1, no doubt, book it. So, but now he's going behind Ceedee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase. Would you take Justin Jefferson with JJ McCarthy over those guys? Or are you kind of agreeing with our rank in the current ADP?
Yeah, I think that sounds accurate. I think you could make a case for all those guys. So I like JJ. I think he's going to come in. It is funny because I hadn't at the time really connected him to the Vikings. The Vikings thing became a reality as they like added that other first rounder, right? We started going, oh, they're going to move up, they're going to make a move, and then it ended up coming to fruition. But way before when we first started talking about it, I was trying to think of a comp, and I was like, he's like a more athletic Kirk Cousins, and then the Vikings end up taking him. So could he do what Kirk Cousins did? Yeah, I don't see why not. I think that the weapons are so good there. I think that the offensive coordinator is one of the best in the league, the offensive system. So I don't know. I think he could do what Kirk Cousins did in that offense. I don't think that there's like a huge fall off. And I love Steven's thing. Sam Darnold, yeah, that would have been Steven was already burying him on the list. He just
I was putting dirt on his grave.
Yeah,
when they had
he's like Sam Darnold. I am.
He's already
out.
seeing ghosts.
Yeah.
So no, I think somebody tell the kid to get him the ball. He's one of the best in the game, and I think he will.
Now, Andrew, I do want to point out to the folks on YouTube, because if they're looking at your graphic, you've got the 18.7 points per game. Now, if we want to include Week 18, we got Justin Jefferson at over 20 points per game, and let's not forget when he returned finally from that hamstring injury, he played like one snap. Maybe it was 2 or 3, and then he got injured. So we're including a game where he basically didn't even play in his points per game. So I'm just saying, Justin Jefferson had a phenomenal year in the games that he played last year. And a lot of that was with bad quarterback play. So, I think there's reason to be excited. And honestly, he could finish as the wide receiver 1, even with a rookie quarterback.
100%. And I'd like to think like, oh, they upgraded their defense. They should run the ball more. They can't. It's Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler back there. I like Aaron Jones, but he is not we're going to give that dude the ball 20 times at his current age. Old. Yeah.
He's going to be 30. Yeah.
They're going to have to sling it. And so I'm excited to see JJ get a shakeup, different from what he had there at Michigan.
I think there's also a good chance TJ Hawkinson starts out on the PUP list. So maybe he gets a chunk of games without TJ Hawkinson. I wouldn't peg him to be the wide receiver 1 at the end of the year, but after the first month of the season, I wouldn't be that surprised.
TJ Hawkinson, the troll man of the tight end position. Yeah, he's gonna be a shell of himself at best if he is playing early next year. I think that's gonna be like a Javonte Williams situation. If he comes back early, I'm still out. Like, don't tell me he's in the best shape of his life. I'm still out.
You just made me realize there's 2 JJs and a TJ on that.
Oh gosh. And a JA, we'll just abbreviate all of them. There's a lot of J's.
JATJ, JJ.
The J's. Not a J name, a Z name, which I like. Big fan of Z. Zamir White was a big winner from the draft. Running backs honestly just usually come out winners or losers in the draft. It's a timeshare kind of situation. But Jesse, why do you have Zamir White as a winner from the NFL draft?
I mean, I think it's also the 2 linemen that they added are very good. Jackson Powers Johnson is probably the best interior lineman in this class. I think he makes a difference on that line. And Brock Bowers, let's say they kind of employ him as a power slot. You run the ball with a power slot that can block like Brock Bowers, that gives you some dynamic way to use him as well. And they didn't really add anybody. Dylan Laube, I think that guy's a 3rd down back if he gets on the field at all. And I don't think any of the 3 of us are really worried about Alexander Madison. So I think Zeus, as he's called there, could be a kind of a featured guy for them. I don't know. I think he came out of this draft looking pretty clean.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I actually, Jesse, I took another. So in one of my leagues, I had a powerhouse for a number of years, but it got old quick. Like I did not scale it in a way to like let it not hit. It hit a continental shelf. I mean, I did trade some of the assets because I saw it coming. So I traded like Tyreek away, probably a year too early, maybe 2 years too early when he went to the Dolphins. But so I've got this team that now has I got a lot of good young players now all of a sudden. Like I picked up Jahmyr Gibbs last year. I drafted Puka Nacua. So my team, it still sucks, but it's got some really good players. But Zamir White was a guy I was just holding on to. And I ended up flipping him after this because I still don't think he's a great back, but I think he will have a good year. And so I sold him to a contender. I basically moved him and your boy McCaffrey from the new McCaffrey from the
Luke.
Commanders.
Luke.
For a future first. So I took the turn of I don't think I had a contending team, but if I did, I would have loved to have had him on my team.
Let me ask you guys this one. Who would you rather have in Dynasty, Zamir White or Calvin Ridley?
Oh God, neither. No. I feel like I'm gonna get more utility out of Zamir White. Like I feel like there's similar-ish value, and so I'll take the running back.
Yeah, I think I would take Zamir as well because I think Ridley. I still think he's gonna be the second best receiver on that team.
Do you have a trade offer, Jesse? Is that what this is?
No, but there's been some trade offers flying at me, and I didn't like it came in with a bunch more players, but it is funny to look at keep trade cut and see that those two players are almost identical. Because I think it's just interesting to me because I think Calvin Ridley is still getting a bump based on
the Calvin Ridleyness.
Yeah, like what is it?
They know his name.
The fact that he's still pulling 3,200 points on keep trade cut.
I think it's Jesse, I think it's it's still that video of him running that route from last year.
Oh yeah, exactly, the preseason video. Whereas you could have the starting running back for the Raiders that may be a featured back that could get a lot of carries because it's not like they're going to lean on their quarterback to throw the ball all over the place. They have two really good tight ends. I don't know. I think that one's really interesting over the short term. And I thought he was drafted way later, but he's like a 4th round draft pick. And in today's day and age, that's not like horrible draft capital. So he could stick there.
No, Jesse, yeah. I wrote an article, like a carousel post on Instagram when he was drafted. I labeled it a must-add running back, which looks terrible for 2 years. But hey, maybe this is the year. Maybe I wasn't all that wrong. I'm hoping he has a good year because I'm going to dig that thing up and I'm going to put it on my story and be like, I told you,
watch him and James Cook, who were guys that had this like 50-50 shared backfield on a national championship team. They just needed a couple years to get going. They might be tearing it up this year. They were, great in college, but we kind of saw that draft capital fall a little for Zeus. But yeah, no, I don't know. I think it's a great situation. He has to be a winner from this draft. So
I'm looking, Jesse, at the Raiders running back depth chart right now. And like you said, Alexander Madison and then the rookie Dylan Lobb. But also on the depth chart, Amir Abdullah still clinging to life with the Raiders. And who would have thought from the 2015 draft class that out of, Todd Gurley, David Johnson, you remember some of those premier elite running backs that they'd be long gone. They've been out of the league for years, but here's Amir Abdullah just clinging on.
Gotta be a fun hang.
God, I loved him in college. He was
I saw him play.
He was legit at Nebraska.
Iowa.
He was really, really dynamic. So, yeah, if you're good at special teams, you just keep a nice long career. It's kind of like being like
ball.
He's kind of like a bullpen catcher. It's like you just cling on. It's not a bad gig. Just stand on the sidelines, making millions of dollars.
No, he's got to be a fun hang though. Like, I think he went to Nebraska. There's nothing to do in Nebraska, so he must have been like really cool and chill there. And he's just clung on to being in Las Vegas for a long time now. Like, he just doesn't want to go back to Nebraska. That's what he's doing there. I'm on to you, Amir Abdullah, AA battery. We're getting all the abbreviations here today. Well, the last set of players that we have as winners coming out of the draft. From me, one of them is my guy, a guy I will not get out on. You can't stop me, Steven.
Gosh,
you can't
Jameson
stop me.
Williams again.
J-Mo is still there, Steven, and he is a great prospect who's going to find it this year and absolutely surge. Probably not. However, he is on the Lions offense, which is absolutely a phenomenal offense, and the Lions are vacating 64 targets away from Josh Reynolds, who's now going to Denver to go play with Sean Payton out there. And someone's got to take those targets. And it's kind of solidified. It is a very, very cut down target tree, I guess, like for these guys. It is Laporta, Amon-Ra, last year Josh Reynolds, and Khalif Raymond, and Gibbs. And no one else. Like, I know it's 5 guys. It sounds like a lot, but no one else is getting thrown the football. And J-Mo could take, I think, at least half of those targets that Josh Reynolds is leaving behind. Again, like 65 targets, it'll bump him up to 70, 80 targets, and a J-Mo target's going to be worth a decent amount. We saw him get worked in a little bit more. So let's not forget about our guy J-Mo. But then also Sam Laporta. Nothing more than like he's not going to get. I don't think he'll get better. Like you're not getting better than tight end 1 beating out Travis Kelce. But this is like we're like, oh, Sam Laporta got a bunch of targets because there's no one else there. There's even less there than there was before. So Sam Laporta looks really poised with Ben Johnson and company still there. Jared Goff still slinging it. There's no reason why he won't just do what he did again this year.
Andrew,
he said lots of words, but all I heard was Josh Reynolds to the Broncos. And I was like, I didn't know that happened. And I need to go look at this depth chart. And I don't know that like moves the needle a lot for me. I don't know that
I've seen a lot of power rankings lately. They're putting out the power rankings in Denver. Let's just say there's not very many teams below them in the old power rankings.
The old power rankings.
But Andrew, we might need to, after this season, a lot needs to break right for you. Otherwise, we got to have a meeting. Because I feel like we got Andrew's truther guys, or
this
Drake
is
London,
his last
London,
year.
Christian Watson, and Jameson Williams. So I'm gonna need some results, Andrew. We're gonna pay close attention to those 3 this year.
We can dig up the successes. I'm the guy who got you on Saquon a couple years ago. Don't.
Oh, he sold me on Saquon.
I did the year after his ACL. That was me, Steven.
That's a real sleeper.
Saquon Barkley,
real
one of the best running back prospects of all time.
I got everyone else on.
I will say, just to defend Andrew, Jameson Williams was he was my second favorite wide receiver in that draft.
No,
class.
I
like, and it's like, come on, the potential is so there. And yeah, maybe it's like get him on the field and throw him the ball a little bit. Quit handing him reverses. Actually, do hand him reverses because he seems to house call those. Yeah. But yeah, it's just I loved that guy at Alabama. Loved him at Alabama. It's time to take a step forward though. Last chance, Andrew. You get one more chance with Jameson Williams.
That's all I ask. That's all I ask, guys.
The truth is, I'm still paying Andrew back for all the negative attention I got for being high on Mike Williams last offseason. So he's not living it down.
That wasn't me. That was not me. I just like to say big Willie energy as much as possible. That one was not me. But this Williams, I am in on. J-Mo to the moon. Can't stop it. That Sam Laporta guy's good too. Any other winners that you guys had thought of, or any lasting thoughts of how the draft turned out, or draft rankings, or just best ball mania in general?
I just think a lot of quarterbacks won, and it's not a surprise because this wide receiver class was so good. But I think, Mahomes, I think, especially if Rashee Rice ends up playing the majority of the season, I think he's in the overall QB1 conversation. I think that he could finish that. The guy still put up, I know he finishes the QB8 in fantasy last year. Points per game, he was even lower than that. But we saw how bad the receiver room was there. Drastically improved. I just think a lot of these receivers, or a lot of these quarterbacks, not a veteran, but Caleb Williams, obviously he gets an upgrade. Trevor Lawrence, he gets an upgrade with Brian Thomas being drafted there. So I just think in general, I'm really excited about a lot of these quarterbacks. I'll tell you what, Jesse, me, Andrew, and Jacob, I wish Jacob was on tonight because I'd ask him, but we started our redraft rankings. We've been combing through those. And I don't know about you, Andrew, ranking quarterback is tough because there is so many good quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Like you get down to, right now I've got Jordan Love like around QB 13 or QB 10, something like, or sorry, I'm looking at dynasty rankings right now. I don't have it pulled up correctly, but it gets tough. I think that quarterback's there's going to be a lot of good ones, and it could be as flat as we've ever seen it.
Yeah.
What does that mean then for strategy wise, Steven? Does that mean that because back in the day, I won some leagues with your not taking a quarterback, not like using some of those assets early. So if it is kind of plateauing with all these good ones, is this going to be a good year to kind of wait on quarterback?
Well, it was plateauing until the rushing quarterback that could pass started taking over. Once you started getting Josh Allen, who could run for 700 yards and plus 10 touchdowns and still throw for 4,000, he's been a huge difference maker. Mahomes had been a difference maker. Jalen Hurts had been a difference maker. That's why you saw those big 3 going so much earlier. But I don't know this year. Like CJ Stroud, would we be shocked if he finished ahead of Mahomes? Probably not. Lamar Jackson, again, he had the MVP season. He's up there. So now we're like 5 quarterbacks deep. Joe Burrow, if he can bounce back. I do think it's flattened out quite a bit. Anthony Richardson, I know it was a small sample size, but he was pretty elite last year. Kyler Murray, I think, is going to have a big bounce back. Dak Prescott. So I do think it's flattened out. Is that what you think, Andrew, with when you were going through this? I feel like I'm leaning towards waiting again on quarterback this year.
Yeah, it's not like it used to be a while ago where it was like, I don't know, numbers didn't exist 10 years ago. Like, I know analytics is a new thing and lots of information out there, but like rushing quarterbacks, the top 5 all just are outstanding in terms of their rushing ability, and you can definitely buy yourselves in on that. But luckily this year, I've been very happy to see Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, that first couple quarterbacks going off the board. Last year they were going in the second round, like early
sometimes the
second round.
first, like the turn.
Yeah, and that was way too far. And I think a lot of smart people sniffed that out and said, heck no. This year they fell back to where they were there were values again. You can get Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts in the 3rd round, and that's where you want to start taking those guys, because that's RB dead zone. That's your wide receiver, really upside tier is going away. That's where you want to take these guys. But past those guys, if you're not getting one of the top 5 to 6, 7, yeah, absolutely. Punt QB. Because you're getting guys like Justin Herbert, who we just talked about liking a little bit better than most, at the 120th pick. You're taking, who's a guy? Joe Burrow, 50 picks sooner. I don't think there's that much difference between those two guys. No, there will be a difference, but not 50 picks different, maybe. You could get a guy like Matthew Stafford pretty late, Aaron Rodgers super late, 146th pick. Like, I think the quarterback late round QB is back this year.
And the thing is, it kind of just depends on who you want to take. Like, to your point, Andrew, Jalen Hurts. So Josh Allen's ADP right now is 33rd overall in underdog. Jalen Hurts is just a few spots back at 37. And those are 2 guys I'm actually debating between. I may move Hurts above Josh Allen.
Hurts is my QB1 right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking because just still the offensive line, even without Kelsey's better. The weapons are far superior to what Josh Allen has.
It's Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore puts up great offenses. Dak was putting up QB5 seasons with Kellen Moore. Like, Jalen Hurts, Kellen Moore is a big deal in Philly.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he wasn't in Los Angeles. I guess he was actually when Herbert was playing. But let's not forget, Dak just put up the QB 3 season last year without him.
Dak's really good, but like, I'm just saying, Kellen Moore just does fantasy friendly things.
Yeah, I just think when you're picking, like, here's your options: Jalen Hurts. Now, if you're going to go running back, Travis Etienne. I mean, I might want to go running back there. Are you taking him or Travis Kelce? That's debatable. It's the receivers in that range I don't love quite as much as like a Jalen Hurts or even Lamar Jackson. Like a Zay Flowers is going in that range.
100%.
Tank Dell. So it's one of those situations. I have taken Jalen Hurts. I stacked him with Barkley in a draft recently, just because I was looking at.
I mean, that's just fun though, too.
It is. I was just thinking.
I might be kind of watching a lot more Eagles games than I've done before, because that just sounds fun.
It does, because like, okay, maybe Jalen Hurts doesn't push it in every down. Well, they're giving it to Barkley then, and he's going to run it in. So
there you go.
I do think it's fun, and that's what we're trying to do with fantasy. We're having fun. But yeah, sorry, long way to answer your question. I think you could try both things. I think you could still take one of these guys like Josh Allen or Hurts, because where they're going, I still kind of like them better than some of the other players. But I have no problem passing on them and taking Dak Prescott, who's going much later.
Yeah, I want to get out in front of it and talk about like CJ Stroud, where he's going. Jacob and I were talking about it. He's going 46th overall as the QB5, and I like him as the QB5, but 46th overall, I can't decide if I hate it or not. It feels really high for a dude who does not have rushing upside. It just isn't there.
I might be the one outlier here, I don't know, on the team, but I just feel like there's going to be some market correction there. I think that he was so good.
I agree.
You have to remember he threw like no interceptions, none, to start that season. Do you remember how efficient he was to ride out the gate? I don't know. I see that's my bold prediction is Bryce Young and CJ Stroud come closer together on the on the court. They're very, very far apart right now. And I just think it's like everything that could go right went right for CJ Stroud. Everything that could go wrong went wrong for Bryce Young. that's kind of how I'm choosing to look at that. And that's why I think you got to be careful, like putting all of your chips in, whether it be dynasty or even redraft into CJ Stroud. I don't know. If you really love him, if you're a Houston fan and everything else, go for it. Cause again, it's about having fun. But I just think it's like that market value seems very high to me. He is appearing on a lot of lists as, we're talking about him with Patrick Mahomes and things like that. It's just like, it was 1 year. Like maybe we wait just a little bit more, like a little bit bigger sample size. And everything went so right for him. So just something to think about.
I'm curious too, because I'm kind of buying in. I think the weapons are so good. I think that he looked really good. I think one of those things that really impressed me watching that playoff game where he just destroyed the Cleveland Browns, who had a good defense. I was like, okay, this guy, he feels for real. So yeah, he's a guy. I get what Andrew's saying, because in that list, most of these quarterbacks are rushing quarterbacks that kind of finish in that area, and he is not. Even Mahomes will get you 300 to 500 rushing yards, So that's the thing. He has to be good at passing to pay off at that ADP, and that's the thing that's more fluky year to year. So, but yeah, I think I will say I think he's priced appropriately, though. It's hard for me to rank him much lower.
Yeah, it's not egregious. It's just something to get worried about, because this is the off season. Kind of, some people are level headed. You wait till that machine gets going, gentlemen. Have you been paying attention to your social media pages? And you're getting hype video here, random comment there that means nothing. Like this dude is in the best shape of his life. We really like this guy. That's why we drafted him. Yeah, no crap. You're saying that in May. So yeah, that'll get a steam ahead of it.
We're going to have to talk about this in an upcoming podcast. That we're running long here, so not right now. But the rushing quarterback, we got to talk about a little bit, because we're getting to almost double-digit rushing quarterbacks that are like really good rushing quarterbacks in the NFL. So that advantage that we keep talking about, oh, he's a rushing quarterback. He's a rushing quarterback. Well, I mean, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels just came into this draft, and Anthony Richardson last year. All of a sudden, there's a lot of rushing quarterbacks starting in the NFL, so we're going to have to examine that a little bit more.
Jalen Hurts, Lamar, Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. Like, yeah, you're right. I think that's a good topic.
And if Justin Fields ends up starting, we got him too.
So. Absolutely. JJ McCarthy ain't a statue quarterback either.
No, I think Bo Nix and JJ could surprise people, because nobody really talked about their athleticism, but I can send you guys YouTube videos. Steven knows if you challenge me to find a
Michael Penix.
Well, somebody mentioned, they're like, I've never seen Bo Nix scramble around, and I was like, oh yeah, and I sent them. It was like a Johnny Manziel moment that he had at Auburn, where he ran around 16 minutes and threw it to the back of the end zone. He's a good athlete too. They could just take off and score some, and when you get down in the red zone, that's where those points come, man. That's big time.
The difference is most people would just send you a link to YouTube. Jesse just sends you a video file that he has saved on his phone.
Yeah, it's a good time. Jesse always hits you with the clips if you're ever needing it. But that'll wrap us up for the show, gentlemen. A great one as always. I really love that we're getting into the rankings. Real fantasy football is coming upon us, and we're of course going to talk about it. Get on Underdogs, use our code guides, get yourself intrigued and involved in it already. As for Steven and Jesse, they thank you as well. You can follow Steven at Fantasy Guides and go to fantasyguides.com. Pick yourself up a draft guide, help you get you through that rookie draft, help you get through your upcoming drafts, your best ball drafts, and follow Jesse at Rookie Debbie Watch, who's already looking at college prospects for 2025. I'm sure of it. He could probably put out a mock draft of 2025 off the top of his head. I guarantee it. It's ridiculous. It's sicko stuff. So
Good running backs.
Oh, I'm excited. He was telling us in our group chat already. He's like, yep, there's this, and that. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know any of these people, but thank you. But yeah, keep tuning in, like, subscribe, follow, tell a friend to help support us. And we're going to get the heck out of here. Say goodbye to the friends at home, Steven, Jesse.
Later, guys.
Peace.